Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If you could please take your seats, we'd like to get started with the afternoon part of our program. Would you please join me in giving the staff of the Detroit Athletic Club a rousing round of applause for their work? And for that great lunch. Also, Dr. Matchek would like all of the undergraduate students to be available to meet with him for a few minutes after Dr. Pretty's talk. Dr. Matchek wants you to note in the program that there's an hour gap, and that hour gap is there by design so that you can work. Those of you taking the seminar for credit can work with Dr. Matchek or any of us from Northwood regarding questions that you might have for your research papers. So Dr. Matchek will be up here at the end of the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege and honor to present your next speaker. Keith Pretty is President and Chief Executive Officer of Northwood University. Keith is responsible to the Board of Trustees for implementation of their governance. His primary role is that of strategist for the university, carrying the vision and the mission of the university out to literally the masses and bringing it to fruition. He is our Chief Relations Officer in the community. He manages the Northwood University Officer Group and, again, is the individual who serves as our mission, our message in the community, as well as being an individual that is responsible for major gift-giving efforts at the university. Keith is a former high school teacher. He also worked for former Michigan Governor John Engler. He was vice president and chief legal counsel at his alma mater, Western Michigan University. He worked in the private sector with the Amico Corporation, worked his way up within that organization, and was their senior strategist and relations person in Washington, D.C. Prior to coming to Northwood University, Keith was the president and chief executive officer of Walsh College, taking Walsh College from a difficult financial position to that of leadership in private business education in the state of Michigan. Today, he will be speaking on the topic, Enhancing the Vision. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome the president of Northwood University, Keith A. Pretty.
Well, thank you, Dr. Nash. Can you all hear me out there? Okay, good. Then this lavalier is working. Yeah, that's good. Well, it's a pleasure to be back. I was here last evening with all of you, or many of you at least, and was here all morning for our other speakers, all of whom have done an excellent job, and I'm really excited to be a part of my first ever Freedom Seminar. This is a great concept, a great institution, but the whole concept of doing a Freedom Seminar, from my perspective, is really so apropos to this institution. So it's great for me to be here. And I'd like to begin with a couple of introductions this morning. First and foremost, someone that many of you in this room as students may not have had the opportunity to meet yet, and that is my boss at home, my wife, Gretchen Pretty. She would stand. And then I have a couple of my bosses from the university, a couple of our trustees that are here. Bert Althaver. Bert, if you would stand, member of our board. And Lynn Farron. Lynn, if you would stand. Lynn is a trustee emerita of the university. We're all privileged to be here in a country that values this topic of freedom, and particularly at a university that not only values freedom, but we have the courage to say it, and say it loudly, and say it regularly, and it's a part of what we are and what we do. And it's very much for me a privilege to be a part of this distinguished group of presenters today. I have learned from all of the presenters we've had thus far, and in fact, I'll have incorporating some of their concepts into my presentation, because my presentation today is much more focused on us. It's much more inside baseball. We're going to talk more about Northwood in this presentation than you certainly will hear in the other presentations. But I think you will begin to see that we are like AT&T and like some of the other presenters you're going to hear from this weekend. We are a very competitive organization in a very competitive market sphere. It's my privilege to be here and follow in the footsteps of some extraordinary speakers that this Freedom Seminar has had over the years. People like the editor of Barron's magazine, Robert Bleberg, or former Congressman Phil Crane, or former Governor John Engler, or Walter Williams, the prominent economics professor at George Mason University. All of them have been here at one time and another, and you've got some additionally wonderful people to hear from over the course of the next couple of days. And I'm particularly pleased that two other individuals are here with us this morning, and that's or this afternoon, I guess it is now, our President Emeritus, David Fry, and his wife, Claudia. If you two would stand and be recognized. You know, for 24 years, David was our president, and another 17 years as a faculty member beforehand. So as we talk about the legacy and the leadership of this institution, it's really David and Claudia that we owe such a huge of gratitude to. And it's a real challenge for Gretchen and I to follow in your footsteps in the leadership of this institution, but we're so pleased you're here. Thank you for being here. And for those of you that don't know it, Dr. Fry has just completed his second knee replacement surgery. And I know from his perspective, just being out of the house and away from the therapist for a couple of days has got to be a good thing. So glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Now, my topic today is called Enhancing the Vision. And I'd like to share with you where I see Northwood today and where I hope we're going to be headed in the future. But before I do that, I think it's important that we set a bit of a historical context for this presentation. Now at Northwood, clearly our vision, the vision that we all share today, emanates from our founders, Dr. Arthur Turner and Gary Stauffer. In 1957, both of these gentlemen were actually working at another academic institution. They were at Alma College. And at that time, it was a little different than the high-tech world you heard about from Gail Torino this morning. The Russians put up the first satellite into space called Sputnik, and it took about a week for the world to know about it because there wasn't any instantaneous communication in just 1957, if you can believe that. But once that became the buzz in this country, President Eisenhower called on academic institutions around the country to focus more on engineering and technology and the sciences. And it became a time where many academic institutions decided to eliminate their business programs and focus more on the agenda in the science and technology area. Drs. Turner and Stauffer, however, felt very strongly that no matter what the organization, no matter how technical the organization, you were going to need leaders, you were going to need managers, you were going to need business professionals to move the organization forward. And so they began to think about starting their own business institution. And in fact, in 1959, on March 23rd, they filed the papers of incorporation and created the Northwood Institute and began what is, for all of us, an extraordinary adventure and an extraordinary academic institution focused exclusively on business management in the context of free enterprise and entrepreneurship. The Northwood idea, as they began to call it, really took off later that fall when they opened the doors of their new academic institution to about 100 students in an old hospital building in Alma, Michigan. Using a small amount of borrowed money for their working capital and a huge amount of determination, they grew that campus rather quickly. And in fact, about 3 years later, they were visited by a delegation from Midland, Michigan, who made a very persuasive case that Alma didn't need two colleges in their town, and that if they came to Midland, Michigan, that they would grow and flourish in that environment. And one of the people that led that delegation is with us here today. And that's Dr. Bill Barker right here in the front row, who was then the general counsel of the Dow Chemical Company. And Bill, thank you for that very persuasive day and time. Along with Bill, one of the other leaders of that organization, or of that movement, was the late Alden B. Dow, the renowned architect who agreed to help lay out and design our campus, and we can thank him for the unique design and the beauty that we have on the Midland campus to this day, among other things, although his philosophy also permeates everything we do within the university. The Northwood Institute and the Northwood idea, conceived originally by Drs. Turner and Stauffer, continued to grow even as the founders retired in the early 80s. And it was at that point that Dr. Fry took over and led us to even greater heights. In fact, thanks to Dr. Fry, and I'm sure he would say many others, today Northwood is a university with $159 million worth of assets, with campuses in Michigan, Texas, and Florida, 44 extension centers in 11 other states around the country, the Richard DeVos Graduate School of Management, the Margaret Chase Smith Library Center in Skowhegan, Maine, and we have over 40,000 alumni and approximately 7,000 students in our various degree programs studying in this country and around the globe. Further, the university enjoys about $70 million in endowments or funds acting as endowment under management, and has no long-term debt. In short, Dr. Fry promised me that he would turn over to me or hand off to me a strong university, and he has certainly kept that promise, and for that I am greatly appreciative. However, the higher education marketplace that Drs. Turner and Stauffer knew in the late 50s and what we have today are completely different worlds. And in fact, had we just tried to stand pat and consolidate our gains and continue to do business as we've always done business, I think we would find ourselves falling way behind in the competitive marketplace that we have today. Over the last 40 years, technology, demographics, and innovation in terms of delivery of higher education products has changed radically and has made this market as competitive as any market that any of you might work in the private sector. Today, there are over 4,000 colleges and universities in this country, everything from very large public universities and very small church-related or religious-related institutions, independent institutions, specialty schools, community colleges, every type of variety imaginable. And more recently, even for-profit universities have come on the scene and have again changed the competitive scene for us rather directly. In fact, what we have today is a situation where competition and technology have created a lot of change in higher ed, and change is good. You heard Gail Toriano talking about her 4 C's today, and competition was certainly one of those, challenges was one of those. We have all of that. We have actually all 4 of those C's that are part of our concerns in management in higher ed. For instance, just a few years ago, academic institutions really didn't market. They had an admissions staff, but they really didn't spend money on billboards or on radio or television or other marketing. That has changed, as you've all seen, particularly as you come downtown here. You see it very clearly as you come down I-75, that corridor from 8 Mile to where you get off here for the DAC. Probably a third of the billboards right now today are advertising different academic institutions in this marketplace. And as I looked out just a few moments ago across the way into Comerica Park, they have all of their lit signage going for the upcoming game, and the sign that they had rolling over again and again was "Enroll now at Wayne State University" with an 800 phone number. Now that would never have happened even 3 years ago, I can tell you, in the case of Wayne State, because I happen to have been in this marketplace and tracked the marketing very closely over the last 8 years. But that's a huge change, and there are many academic institutions today that are spending tens of millions of dollars on an annual basis to market their brand. In fact, some of you that are football fans may have noted that the national championship game this year, played between Ohio State University and the University of Florida was played in the University of Phoenix Stadium. And the University of Phoenix, it's reported, paid $155 million for the naming rights on that stadium. So higher education today is a much more competitive marketing activity, but it's also more competitive in every single way that we do business. The smallest independent universities now find that they're spending extraordinary amounts of money that they didn't have budgeted just a few years ago. And in some cases, it has taken some institutions down. We've seen colleges and universities, even in this marketplace, disappear because they overspent on marketing and underspent on their core product and still didn't reach their market and failed to generate the enrollment they needed to sustain. Here in Michigan, our public universities have been forced to mandate huge tuition increases in the face of lessening state revenues during this challenged time that Pat Anderson talked about earlier this morning. And this has made some of our public institutions much more focused on marketing. They're almost entrepreneurial in the way they operate, which is scary, having worked in a large public university. That was not their nature just a few years ago. But it does tell you that competition exists here. And I know for today's speakers, for all of us, the subcaption of the Friday presenters was to talk about competition and differentiation. And I can assure you that we have plenty of competition in our world today. What I'd like to talk about is how we differentiate that, particularly in our case, Northwood, in order to build our opportunity. Now, Northwood has significant points of differentiation, probably more than any of our competitors, which is a wonderful opportunity for us. First and foremost, we're a specialty business management institution. This specialization has allowed us to have a crystal clear focus on what we do, on the practical application of business and management techniques for our students. For instance, it allows you as undergrad students to take courses in your majors as freshmen or in your first years in the program, which you certainly don't do at most other institutions. It allows you to have double majors. It allows you to have triple majors. It allows you to have a focus that is so much stronger and, in fact, a focus that is widely recognized by the employer community so that it's going to provide real opportunities for you going forward. So that first differentiation is critical and very important to us. Secondly, I would say that our 12 educational outcomes, our code of ethics, and our mission statement here at Northwood University stand out in the world of higher education. You know, most higher ed institutions, if they say anything, they might have a mission statement that would talk about what they aspire to do. But there are very few institutions that I've ever met that have educational outcomes that tell you in advance what we expect to accomplish. In fact, those of you that were with us last evening with Marva Collins, she made the point that you have to start with the end in mind. And we, in fact, do that. We warrant that to you in advance, which is an amazing differentiator for us. From the very beginning, Northwood's been an innovative university with outstanding curriculum, programs, and a strong guiding philosophy, which I think, again, makes us very, very special. Thirdly, we believe economic and political freedoms are important in a free and competitive society. And we strongly believe in the free enterprise system and in entrepreneurism. And our graduates have proven that. In fact, in a study a couple of years ago, a higher percentage of graduates from this institution have gone on to own all or part of their own business than virtually any other institution I've ever heard of. So we truly are what we say we are, and I think that's a strategic advantage. Fourth, from our founding, we've had a very global education, global perspective on business education. And in today's world, as the world becomes smaller and flatter, it is a real opportunity for all of you as students, as alumni, as friends of this institution. We have today over 825 students from outside the United States studying on our campuses from more than 70 countries around the globe. And to give you some historical context on our global initiatives and how they broke open, literally it was with the fall of the Berlin Wall back in 1989. In fact, it was Dr. and Mrs. Fry, that led a delegation along with a couple of our trustees, Helen and Macaulay Whiting Sr., who made a trip to East Germany and Czechoslovakia in that year in search of ways that Northwood could be helpful to the newly emerging free nations. And along the way, their first stop was at a freedom seminar. Can you imagine that? What a great concept. Something we at that point had been doing for a number of years already, but they were having the opportunity to do for the very first time. And at that seminar, it was hosted by none other than Václav Havel, the newly elected president of Czechoslovakia. And the conference was staffed by a cadre of Czech students from around the country. And immediately, Dr. Fry went to work. I'm told he recruited at least 4 of those young people who came to the United States, very interested in having the opportunity to study business in a free enterprise environment. From that extraordinary beginning, we've added articulation agreements across the globe. And today, there are over 100 such agreements in many different countries around the globe that allow us to flourish and grow. And you might ask, why would international students come to a small campus in Midland, Michigan? And it really is because we're a natural leader in free market education. And the desire for that, sometimes outside of this country, is even greater, I think, than some of us might appreciate inside this country. So we have an obligation and an opportunity with our international programs, which also enhance all of your educations. The diversity that our international students bring is, I think, a critical education piece all to itself. So our points of differentiation are strong and are numerous. And the question then becomes, how do we enhance the vision or the Northwood idea and as we move forward at this institution? Well, the first step in the process, from my perspective, is to engage the entire university in a strategic planning process. And thanks to the efforts of Dr. Fry and Dr. Surum, our chief academic officer, Northwood already participates in what's called the AQUIP self-accreditation process. That means we participate through our regional accrediting body in what's called an academic quality improvement program. AQUIP helps us to focus on continuous improvement. And one of our AQUIP teams is a team on strategy that was already in existence when I arrived and had an agenda, was looking at how we were strategically putting the university forward. And this particular strategic team has agreed to leading our strategic planning process across the university and to make it an engaged process with all faculty, all staff, all alumni, donors, students, anyone who is interested in being involved. And I'm anxiously awaiting their initial report so that we can begin the process of disseminating possible restatements of our mission, of our vision, of our code of ethics and others. And in fact, some of you here today have given me some great ideas for looking at some of those changes. While we're in the process of we're also in the process of reconstituting our organizational structure for the university. Sadly, both our chancellor, Dr. Dave Long, and Dr. Surum, who I just mentioned, will both be retiring at the end of this academic year. And a wealth of experience and knowledge will be retiring with them. I think combined experience is around 45 or 46 years at Northwood University as they retire. So replacement and restructuring for these and other administrative positions is a major focus as we look at what and how and who can best provide leadership at this institution. Dr. Surum and Long's 2 executive positions are being consolidated into one, which will be called our Executive Vice President and Chief Academic and Operating Officer of the university. And the streamlining of the senior management will ensure that academic and operational decisions are made consistently through this university. And we're actively searching for this new leader, and I would expect that he or she will be in place before our fiscal year begins on September 1. And I had a call just a few moments ago during Gail Toriano's presentation this morning that we have a new Vice President of Advancement for the university, which, because I have a couple of details to work out with that individual, I'm not going to announce his name today, but we are quickly assembling a team that I think will help us to move this forward. And there'll be additional announcements over the next few weeks. Another AQUIP team on our campus of faculty has looked at our automotive programs, our automotive marketing and management program, our automotive aftermarket management program, and our automotive supply chain management program, and have talked about building a new and innovative kind of umbrella program to bring those three a little bit more together in terms of marketing, in terms of focus, and we'll be adding a new leader in that area to lead that effort in the not too distant future. And we're in the midst of an aggressive zero-based budgeting process that is having us look at every expenditure within the university to see, as was mentioned this morning by Pat Anderson, if maybe if we're doing 10 things and we should do 8 things better, if we can't find some of those opportunities within our budget. So it's a busy time. From my perspective, one of the things that I think is critical to enhancing the vision of this institution is to engage one of our greatest assets in a much greater way than maybe we've had the opportunity to date, and that's our alumni, and giving them a role in shaping our future, giving them a role in knowing more about one another and the networking opportunities that you all have in the business fields, but keeping them more closely affiliated with the institution than we've had in the past. I think we have extraordinary alumni, and they've been very successful, and we need to bring that back and use it for the benefit of current students and future generations of students, because if there's one thing I have learned in my many years in higher education, particularly in my most recent assignment at an institution here in Detroit, is that word-of-mouth marketing is probably the most powerful that we can have in higher education today. So your success becomes our success. And as you go into the marketplace carrying a Northwood degree and have great success in your careers, it only excites additional people and generations behind you to come to this institution. And we've got to engage our alumni in much greater ways in order to do that. We're focused on growth initiatives on all of our campuses, but particularly on our Florida and Texas campuses, where we'd like to bring the programs from the Richard DeVos Graduate School of Management to both Texas and Florida over the course of the next couple of years. And we believe that particularly on both of those campuses, even the undergraduate program has great room for growth in that they're in states that are fast growing and have very diverse population base that have not been college going in the past. So we think both those campuses have great opportunities. Under the leadership of Dr. Kevin Fagan, our provost on the Texas campus, we're engaged in an aggressive effort to get full regulatory and programmatic authority from the state of Texas, something that we have been denied over the years. And in just the past few weeks, the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board made a visit to our campus and was very, very impressed. And so we're anxiously awaiting their report so that we can begin the next phases of growth on that campus with their approval. All three of our domestic campuses will need continued facility expansion and renewal. An excellent example of a new building that has made a critical difference on our campus is the DeHornley Student Activities Center on the Florida campus, which was built over the last couple of years and opened just this last year and allows us to have a point of public assemblage on that campus that we simply did not have before. We could not bring most of the student body together in one place at one time because we didn't have a building to do so. And it's also allowed us to have indoor intercollegiate athletics programs such as basketball. And you're going to hear as our final speaker in this seminar from Rolly Massimino, our basketball coach down there and director of basketball operations, meaning that he is really in charge of both the men's and the women's teams, and both teams had extraordinary success in their first year of operation. Both teams have brought a great deal of focus and public relations and attention to that Florida campus. So the decision to build that building and to provide additional classroom space and then be able to provide some of these other activities hand in glove in the growth of that campus. And I salute Dr. Fry and the staff in making that kind of decision, but we have to do a lot more of that on all of our campuses. And we've got some great activities going on. In Texas, we just opened the Gavert Student Activities Center, and we're in preparation on the Sowell Swalwell Student Union Building. We're also just broken ground for the Sloan Family Building for Aftermarket Studies on the Michigan campus. And in fact, this 25,000 square foot building is critical to our needs up in Midland. As under the leadership of Dr. Nash, we're at our all-time record enrollment on that campus, and we need the classroom space for all of you and for our growth potential, but we also need that space as that's going to be a conference center. That's going to be an area for training and business meetings and a lot of other activities on the weekends that are going to bring more and different constituencies onto our campus. I mentioned earlier the Richard DeVos Graduate School of Management. I know a number of our students from that program are here today. I'm pleased to announce that beginning this fall, we're going to offer our MBA program with our partner at the Hospitality Institute of Montreux in Montreux, Switzerland, beginning this September. And it'll be our program taught exclusively by our faculty. And in fact, for any of you that might, particularly you undergrads that might be interested, there are financial aid opportunities for those that would qualify. But it's going to be a great new opportunity to expand the excellent education that we have in the DeVos program now to Switzerland, and certainly we're hoping to Florida and Texas, and then additional markets thereafter. If we're going to enhance the brand, as we've talked about, one of the things I think we really need to do, or enhance the vision, excuse me, we need to really unite and integrate all of our branding opportunities here at this university. In just 48 years, the Northwood idea has grown to over 44 locations for our university college program, and we're in numerous countries around the globe. Now it's our challenge to integrate and to consolidate our name, our look, our message, in other words, our brand. Unity of brand will pay dividends as we summon the power of Northwood and make it recognizable everywhere that we do business or hope to do business, or that you hope to do business in your careers. And it's imperative for us to continue to build on opportunities for our students to experience the global economy in all aspects of our curriculum. We have many partnerships in place. As I mentioned, we have 6 sites overseas that we are teaching at today, but it is my hope and my goal that we're going to be able to provide more opportunities for our domestic students to study in other parts of the world. Northwood was one of the first universities in the country to do that many years ago, and I would hope that in the not too distant future we can provide educational opportunities for all of you to study at some point in your career overseas, because clearly in this global economy that will be a great opportunity for you. We're in the process of revitalizing and re-energizing a unique asset of this university, and that's our Alden B. Dow Creativity Center. And I'm anxiously awaiting the names of the finalists for the new executive director of that organization, which are to be presented to me in the next few weeks so that we can get this person here and on board and have she or he work intensively to use this unique structure in all of our campus programs across all of our geography to particularly focus and expand the opportunities that our founders had to look at the intersection of business and the arts, and to expand that into our curriculum in ways that maybe we haven't envisioned presently. And our interim director of the Alden B. Dow Creativity Center, Nancy Barker, is here with us today. And Nancy, thank you for your leadership. We have greatly appreciated the way you have quickly elevated us and provided a lot of new and innovative programming, and we look forward to the next steps for the Creativity Center. We need to continue to provide our students with the tools and knowledge to make sure that you emerge from this university as extraordinary business communicators. Something that I think Northwood does better than most already. But in fact, in today's world, we need to continue to do that and continue to set you apart from graduates of other institutions. This has to be a continuing priority for us. And enhancing this vision is really contingent upon us raising and expanding the financial base of the university. So I look forward to working together with a number of you to build partnerships, to open new doors, and to make new friends and build new support for this university. And finally, one really exciting opportunity that we have in front of us to do that is our 50th anniversary that comes up in a little less than 2 years from now. And I'm so appreciative of one of our trustees, Lou Furlow from Saginaw, Michigan, that he has taken the leadership in this effort, along with one of the sons of our founder, Mike Turner, who is a graduate of Northwood University and has agreed to coordinate our 50th anniversary activities. And this is going to be a fun, highly inclusive, interesting opportunity for us to spread the good word of Northwood and look forward to our next 50 years of success. And finally, I think to enhance the vision, we have to continue the utilization of appropriate and cost-effective technologies. You saw some amazing things that are on the drawing board at AT&T this morning, and frankly, there are so many other companies that are out there with innovation that it's almost dizzying trying to figure out what works best for a particular academic institution or for particular faculty and students. But we have to continue to expand the use of our Blackboard project and to get more of that into the classroom and to have appropriate technologies across the university if we want to continue to remain competitive in the global world. Now, this is an aggressive agenda, and there's a lot that we need to do in our second 50 years of existence. And it's impossible at this point to really tell you specifically what's going to be part of our strategic plan, but it is very possible to promise you that the plan will be developed with input from all of us and will be well communicated, will be dynamic, and will derive its strength from the things that have made Northwood University strong in the first place, and that's our mission and our people. And as we have done before and in all we will do in the future, I can guarantee you that we're going to be true to our roots, true to the concept of freedom, concept of free markets and entrepreneurism and the global economy, and be true to what has made Northwood unique and strong. While we've had remarkable success in less than 50 years, I think our best years are in front of us, and I'm excited to be a part of the leadership team that's going to take us there. So it's an honor and a privilege for me to stand before you today and talk about enhancing the vision, but this is only the first step, and I'm calling on all of you to be a part of this opportunity as we go forward. And with that, I thank you for this opportunity, and I'll be happy to take any questions you might have. That's about our thing.
Who wants to ask the first question? Now, I have spoken to some of you individually, and
Got to be a question.
I just wanted to encourage, because I know some of you feel like you're on stage. Maybe it's because of the microphone when you ask the question, but I ask, don't be shy. This is the reason you're here is to get full value from your tuition dollar. Ask the question.
What a large amount that is. How do you plan on making the brand more uniform for Northwood University? For example, our different schools have different mascots. For example, how are we going to change that, make it more uniform?
I'm not sure we are going to change the mascots. I mean, they are, the three traditional campuses have their own identities. They're quite different regions of the country. We have hopefully consistency of curriculum in terms of the academic programming, but the identity on those three campuses is important, and because they compete in different levels in different conferences in different parts of the country, I'm not sure I think we need to change the mascots necessarily, but I think we need to be more consistent in the use of colors, in use of logo, we need to be more consistent in getting our brand put forward, thinking about opportunities, both paid and particularly free opportunities in terms of public relations where we can promote the university through those opportunities, and I think we have an extraordinary opportunity to do that. This event, for instance, with all of the extraordinary presenters you have here. I can foresee in the future that there may be radio and television and others that would like to be a part of this. And I can see us promoting it a little more broadly, that again helps to have people understand what Northwood University is. But at this point, I don't think we need to necessarily change out the three mascots. They're well appreciated by the students and their alums on each of those campuses.
Why do we focus as much of our efforts into Northwood's expansion into other states and countries instead of growing our main campus into a larger entity?
Well, I wouldn't say to you that we have done it one in lieu of the other. Although I would say to you much of the growth we have had in this country has been because of the fact that we have an international curriculum, because we have a reputation as a school that believes in liberty, that believes in freedom, that believes in free enterprise, and that is very, very attractive to those in countries that sadly have not had that opportunity. So it helps to build our reputation. We wouldn't have all of these international students studying on our campuses in this country if we didn't have a strong product here. So I don't see one taking away from the other. In fact, I see one being additive to the other. I see the diversity of our international students and the opportunities for you to study overseas, to study at some of the locations that we have partnerships in place, or to go to Montreux and work on your MBA over there and get some experience in the European community right now is an amazing opportunity for our students on this side. So it's kind of, in my opinion, it's one feeds the other. One does not take away from the other. I think the way that it's historically been done at Northwood, they've done it right, and that has allowed us to grow both sides of the equation for the benefit of both.
As a fourth-year traditional student, I've noticed some mixed messages between whether or not the Richard DeVos Graduate School of Management is truly a part of the Northwood community or just on the campus of Northwood. Where do you see the future of that and integrating that in other campuses?
Oh, it's an integral part of this university. The programming is so good, so strong, and I have just come to this institution from probably the largest, the school that had the largest MBA program in the state of Michigan is Walsh College. They have about 1,400 students in their MBA program. So I've seen and heard and done a lot of research on what people are looking for in an MBA, and I would say to you that the DeVos program is better. And we have a great opportunity to expand it here in Michigan, expand it in Montreux as we're doing for this fall, expand it in Texas and Florida, and there may be other opportunities over time. We're seeing nationally more and more corporations and individuals that are looking beyond the baccalaureate degree for their senior management and for their really high potential employees. So the graduate degree is becoming more of a mandatory kind of opportunity for people, and I think we have a program that deserves to be expanded, but as you expand, you sometimes lose that culture and lose that program and lose that focus, and we don't want to do that and go too fast. But I think if we take it to Texas and Florida, take it initially to Switzerland as we are this fall, I think we have the ability to grow on an incremental basis and maintain all of the good things in our program.
I'm a Florida student and also was a student in Midland. And one thing I do enjoy about Northwood is the amount of international students. And I just want to know, how do we get that growth in international students?
Well, how we get it and how we keep it, as we talked about, part of it is our reputation, our focus nationally and internationally. Students, particularly in countries that haven't had the kind of opportunities that we have in this country, really would like to come to a school that understands and has the reputation for academic programming in that area. And so we're able to grow because of the great reputation established by our founders, established by Dr. Fry and so many other people on liberty and on freedom and on those kinds of things. We want to add more international students, but frankly, we're constrained. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, our Michigan campus right now is at our all-time record enrollment. It is right where we predicted and wanted to be, and frankly, built the facilities to be. So next steps are going to require us, if we're going to take more students, domestic or internationally, to really fill out our campus infrastructures, or to, as you have, find students that are willing to embrace the Northwood idea for a period of time on one campus and then a period of time on another campus. Yes, sir.
I started going to school at Northwood in New Orleans, and after Katrina, that campus went away. Is it plans for it to come back or grow another one in that area?
You know, I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. Katrina obviously took a lot of things away from the New Orleans area, and if I remember correctly, our facilities there were affiliated with a military operation, and I think they simply didn't have the space for us afterwards. If there's a market in New Orleans, and as things are rebuilt, we'll certainly look at that. Our university college, you cannot say they've not been unaggressive. When you look at their structure in 11 states and 44 sites around this country, they go and provide opportunity where there is a market that we can legitimately serve. And so as New Orleans is regenerating itself, we'll certainly give that a good look. Tim?
We had a commencement there last week, Dr. Brady. We are up and running again in New Orleans.
Okay, great. There you go.
President
There's your
Priddy, I
answer.
believe we have time for one more question, and then I want to remind the undergraduates that I would like you to remain behind so that I can speak to you. And one last question.
The emphasis on athletics up in Midland, obviously we've had success over the last couple of years with the football program. It's kind of a two-part question. One, what kind of vision do you have in the future as far as bringing in star recruits from high school, keeping it a successful program, because obviously a good program brings in revenue for the university. And a second part of that would be the Florida campus as well. How close are they attaining a Division II status in certain sports?
Well, taking your second question first, in the NCAA rules, you cannot even apply to become a Division II program until you've had a program for 2 years. So we're a couple years away from even making that step of application. I can tell you, having had dinner with Coach Massimino a couple weeks ago, he's very excited about that opportunity to go Division II. There's not a lot of Division II programs in the state of Florida, however. So we'll have to analyze that very carefully in what we choose to do there. Now, I happen to believe, and I'm biased, I'll tell you that up front, because I had the good fortune of being a student athlete as an undergraduate in college. I happen to believe that's one of the greatest experiences that any student can have. And particularly in today's world, particularly for students that want to study business, because it's all about teamwork, it's about trust, it's about doing something together of importance. And the more opportunity we can provide to our students in athletics or in any other student activities area, the better we're going to be as a university. And if you look, for instance, at the Michigan campus, the auto show, 1,200 students worked on that auto show last year. We only have 2,000 students in the entire university. We only have about 300 automotive marketing and management majors. That is a huge builder. It's an opportunity for our students to engage in not only campus life, but to work in a team environment and to pull toward a common goal. So I'm a strong supporter, and our athletic program in Michigan is doing well, and we want to continue to do well, and I think we've got an athletic director and a number of great coaches that are going to make sure that that's the case, because athletics feeds student life. We get a number of students, frankly, at the Division II level that might not have come to Northwood if they didn't have the opportunity to compete. And so sometimes we get them in the door that way because they thought they were going to be Division I athletes, but they still would like to come somewhere if they didn't get chosen for Division I. And once they come to us, they really have found the right school beyond athletics. So I'm a huge proponent of appropriate, integration of athletics and academics.
President Priddy, we thank you very much for what you're doing for our institution, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Those of you that are remaining behind, if you just stay